Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I am here today in western New Mexico with Outdoor Solutions doing another field to table hunt. Now I did the first one of these about 2 years ago and we did wild hog and deer, and it was really my first introduction to hunting, and I had a fantastic time, and it was a way to start learning all the skills involved in actually harvesting game. Everything from shooting it to quartering it, cleaning it in the field, cutting the quarters down into the actual individual cuts of meat, packaging everything, and then cooking it and preparing it into a full meal. Now, it's been long enough that my freezer is now completely empty, and I've gotten used to eating wild game. And so I was talking to Greg at Outdoor Solutions, and he had an elk hunt field to table, and I have been told that elk is about the tastiest wild game out there. So we are today on the final day of our field to table elk hunt, and we're actually preparing a group dinner here, which is one of the last parts of the class. We have this is going to become a
good way to lose your finger.
I know. I'm sneaky and careful.
Okay.
This is going to become a sticky elk, sort of an Asian ginger recipe. We have salt and pepper oryx. We had this cool opportunity that a friend of the lodge had shot an oryx, African animal, but they've actually been introduced down here in the Southwest, and they do really well. So we get to compare oryx to elk.
Coffee, so I'm starting to
preparing a variety of extra dishes. We're going to have some cheesy sausage grits with elk sausage that we made just this morning. And then the piece that I'm most interested in, elk chili with red New Mexico chilies. That's going to be fantastic. But before we actually sit down and eat, let's rewind a bit and go back to the beginning of this trip and what it actually takes to get an elk and what you do with it once you get it. All right, so we are hunting in one of the New Mexico zones that is limited to only primitive rifles, which means muzzleloaders. However, the legal definition here of muzzleloader is a little bit liberal. So what we are shooting today, or on this whole trip, are best of the West 45 caliber muzzleloading rifles. And this whole setup here is like an $8,000 or $10,000 rig. You may not have thought muzzleloaders could get that expensive if they're not like vintage historical antiques, but they certainly can. So our outfitter here, Love of Hunting, rents these out for people who are on the hunt. So I'm able to use this instead of my model 1848 French iron-sighted gigantic muzzleloader, and this is going to be way more effective. So it's actually built on a Remington 700 Action. Except instead of cartridges in here, we just have essentially large primers. And you do, in fact, muzzle load a bullet. We're shooting, I'll pull one out here in a minute, but we're shooting 315 grain pointed bullets over a charge of 115 grains of black powder. So this is technically a black powder muzzleloader, but it's also capable of making seriously accurate shots out to 600 yards. All right, so this is our ammunition, slightly deconstructed. We've got 115 grains of black powder, pre-measured out and in capsules. We have 315 grain, 45 caliber expanding bullet. Notice that it is hollow based, so it's fairly easy to press down because it's going to be sized a little bit under the rifling. When you fire, the pressure is going to expand this. This originally, well, the original version of this was called the Minier ball, about the Civil War era. And the pressure will expand the base to grasp the rifling, and that will cause it to spin very nicely, reliably, consistently. And then this is our primer. So it's sort of a mini cartridge-shaped thing. Because the rifle is based on a Remington 700, this ensures that you can use the bolt action of the rifle to reliably cycle primers into, well, the primer chamber. So there's actually a rifle primer there, and all this does is detonate this powder. All right, so all the way down.
Did it click? Did it stop?
Yep. Yeah, I put it down to a hard stop, which was like
just to make sure it's not a full
675.
rotation. Yep.
All right, so I've got my range turret set to 100 yards, which is what we're at. Davy Crockett, this is not quite. All right, fire in the hole. guess that's a tolerable shot.
Just a little low on that orange ring.
About an inch low.
So I would say that's a dead elk.
That's a dead elk.
I can handle that.
Nicely done.
All right, so end of the first day, we took the rifle out to the range. It seems really impressive. This will be my first time actually using something like this, and I'm pretty excited about it. So it's evening now. Tomorrow is the very first day of elk season, so it is by far our best opportunity to get a really good cow elk. We are heading out of here at about 5 in the morning tomorrow, so it's time for me to get to bed. All right, it is time to load the rifle. So we're gonna go ahead and load this up now, leave the primers out. That way it's ready once we get to the field. Bullet, nice and centered. Starter. Ramrod. Oops. There we go. We're good to go. So, we're up in western New Mexico outside of Magdalena, and it's the first day of elk season, and essentially what we're doing is driving the high points of the ridges to get good overlooks into these little side canyons, and then glassing down into the canyons to see if we can spot a group of elk that we can then plan a route of approach on, basically. Nothing yet, but we're working on it.
Working this ridge down.
Because the wind's blowing up this way. So we'll let them get in front of us. And we'll see how close we can get. We'll jump down into this little draw. Number one goal right now is just to make sure the wind's right. Alright, so on the other side of this ridge, there's one group of 8 or 10, and there's another group of probably closer to 20, but they're 1,000 yards away from us right now. And the wind's kind of coming up towards us, so what we're going to do is let them get a little bit down that ridge. And it looks like they're going to keep going down there. And then we'll head down and see how close we can get. Next 2
closer. We're about 560 yards out. There's a couple of cows that are bedded down, but they're a little further than I'm confident I can make a hit, and they're facing us. So I think what we're going to do is go back down the hill a little ways, circle around, and see if we can come to a better position. Okay.
I heard it.
He definitely did.
I'm watching.
Yeah, I got her.
I'm watching.
Well, I'm on one of them. There's 4 of them there now.
She's the one to the bottom, on the bottom to the left.
Is she hit?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so it's been a long day. We spent a couple of hours tracking this small herd of elk out. We finally got them on a ridge line, got into position, took a shot, thought it was a good shot. Wasn't a good enough shot. It was a hit, but didn't drop the girl right there. So did a little tracking, followed her down, second shot, finished her off. I can't show you any of that on the video because YouTube, but now we just have some field dressing to do, and then we can pack. The good news is I managed to hit one of the shoulders. The rest of the animal is in pretty darn good shape. I think we're going to have a really good harvest off of this elk. So we do, however, have to pack it way out over a ridge that way to the truck. So that's our fun next step. Oh, and it started raining too.
The work is done.
Oh, the work is only, well, it's more than begun. Today's work is done. We've got bits of elk now, primal cuts. Now we have to go back and do the real packing and cut it down into individual muscle groups and package it up. Did I mention it started raining? It's been raining. It's kept raining.
Started and didn't stop.
All right, we are back out of the field now. We've got all of our quarters. Well, I've got several of my quarters here. We're going to start by cutting up our one front leg quarter. The other front leg quarter had a big bullet hole in it, so we ended up leaving it in the field. But this one, we should be able to get quite a lot of good meat off of. All right, one quarter done. I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. So this is the front leg, and we have, we'll start with the boring stuff. We've got the shanks down here, which are a whole bunch of tough muscles for the lower part of the leg. We've got those separated out. And then the biggest single piece is this roast, basically triangular shape between the shoulder and the upper leg. We got that guy. We got the flat iron here. And then the fish, because it sort of resembles a fish, down there. I went ahead and took off the scapula because I want to see if I can turn that into some sort of decorative serving dish or something like that. Seems like an interesting idea. And then, so the other thing here is, with a lot of this stuff, like the flat iron, there's a big sheet of silver skin on it. And in theory, you have two different options. You can either leave it on there and use it as like a protective layer against freezer burn, assuming you're gonna go ahead and freeze this, which I am. And the idea is once it's frozen, that silver skin's easier to take off, and when you take it out to cook it, it's not that big a deal to peel that off. What I have discovered, because that's what we did last time with the deer, is that my wife pulls the meat out, lets it thaw, and then comes back to prepare it and gets very grumpy when she has to deal with all the silver skin. So I took all the silver skin off myself this time, and it'll go into the freezer in a ready-to-cook state. And then, of course, we have a stew pile and a general grind pile. All right, time to break down some more elk. We have a very nice looking large hind quarter here. So I am going to start, I think, with the sirloin tip here, because the whole point of this is that the muscles come apart as complete units. And so what you do is find the junctions between the muscles, and the most obvious one on the outside is this guy right here. So that's the bottom round, that's the sirloin tip. And we've got the tri-tip sitting up here on top. So I'm gonna start by breaking into this, and we're just gonna, frankly, disassemble the whole thing like Legos. Now, once I get down here, this is not going to separate from another muscle, because this is where the muscle is connected up to the bones of the joint, which doesn't really want to bend. But I'm going to take the knife and I'm going to cut in around the knuckle at the top of this bone here. In theory, you could go in and do this really fast and just hack all the stuff up, but I really like being able to get each of the separate muscles cut nice and clean. Just looks good. I think it's better practice if I've done this enough to be able to even make such a claim. All right. There. Now, this is the back end of my tri-tip that covers the top here. Now, there we go. That is the tri-tip with a whole bunch of connective gunk on it. All right, so I have gotten all the way down here, and that is the leg bone right down in there. So I'm also going to have to trim this muscle off the leg bone, which is going to run right up there. You can't see a whole lot of it right now, but it's in there. All right, there we go. There is our sirloin tip. So cut it off the bone right in here. That was attached front and back. So there's the bone that it came off of. Now we can take the sirloin butt off up here, and then the rest of this is just kind of gonna unwrap into 3 or 4 more nice cuts. All right, so I actually have 3 different cuts here. This is the bottom round right here, and then this little guy in the middle is the eye of round, and this is the top round. You can see a little bit of black right there. that is a gland full of nastiness that we do not want to cut into. We want to cut it out. Take that, and in the trash it goes. That's the sort of thing that gives your meat a nasty, gamey flavor that nobody likes. All right.
What do you got there?
All right, so that is the bottom round. It's pretty kind of huge on an elk. So this obviously needs to be cleaned up, and this is where it was connected to the pelvis. So this is where this quarter was cut off in the field. So we'll clean that up. We'll take all this crap off, and then I'm going to cut that into a couple of pieces because that's bigger than I can eat in one sitting. All right, that is the sirloin butt. This is basically at the very top of the hind quarter of the animal, and we have it complete here because we have the secret sneaky method for cutting this off as a whole solid complete cut instead of slicing right through it when the rear quarter is taken off, which is a nice Outdoor Solutions sneaky secret that they will teach you how to do. So this is, a lot of this is going to turn into grind and garbage, but this is actually going to come off nicely as a separate muscle group. We're just going to cut through that right there. That's junk. That is our nice, really tender sirloin butt. Now we have the bottom round here to come out. There's this triangle of tendons and the gland that we already took out, and then we're going to have heel. That's the heel, and shanks. All right, we went ahead and separated the leg out. This, we're actually going to leave all the shank meat on the bone. We're going to cut it off right about here, and then we can use this to cook something like ossobuco. The other rear quarter, I took all the shanks off, so I figured it'd be interesting to leave them on this one and try cooking that up. And then this one is going home to Dharma, and this will be a pupper treat, and she will absolutely adore me for about 10 minutes until she forgets that I exist because she's busy gnawing on this thing. I have been cutting up some of my bigger pieces here because this is way bigger than I can eat in one meal. So, for example, here I split the this guy into 4 pieces, and just look at the inside of that. It is beautiful looking meat. Like I wouldn't normally associate beautiful meat, but I tell you what, this really is. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So we'll vacuum seal this in 4 pieces. You can see some of the connective tissue in there that's going to melt away when we slow cook this. It's going to be delicious. There's that. And there we go. So 4 nicely meal-sized chunks. We've got our bottom round, we've got our heel and shanks there. We left, as you saw, we left this one on the bone. A little bit of grind, not a whole lot of grind meat, which is nice. Sirloin butt, the tri-tip, and the eye of round. This is a heck of a lot of meat off of 1/4 of an elk, and this will keep me going for many, many months. All right, guys, so we're done with the butchering process. It's time for the final evening dinner. I've got 2 coolers full of elk in my car ready to head home tomorrow morning, but tonight we get to try all of the delicious elk that we have harvested in the last couple days. So we put together a whole dinner here that is, well, to quote Jaws, I think I'm going to need a bigger plate. But if you are like me, if you think that hunting would be a pretty cool thing to learn how to do, but you grew up without any family doing it and you don't know how to get into it, check out Outdoor Solutions. If you're interested in long-range shooting, they actually do long-range shooting schools as well. So check out their Instagram page, their YouTube page. There is actually quite a lot of cool stuff there that you can check out. And of course, if you want to have a plate like this with a bunch of good people and a great hunting experience, there's just so much here. Ah! Elk heart stuffed with sausage, apples, bread. Let's see if I can get some of this on my plate. Anyway, if you want to partake in all of this wonderful time, check out Outdoor Solutions. And if I can get this guy off, there we go. I am going to sit down and stuff myself silly. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.